Question is, why do you think feelings like embarrassment or humiliation are often associated with male sexual assault, and how might it affect a survivor willingness to speak out?
I think it affects males in a particular way because society sees the man as the protector, right? So the being violated in such a way in terms of sexual assault that kind of goes against the idea of being a protector, being strong, being able to defend yourself. So it all plays into that. So men are reluctant to speak about something that's so emotional because it brings up those feelings. And in this society, you know, emotions and manhood, it's kind of a dichotomy, which is wrong, but that's how we kind of see men in this world. So
1 in 6 boys before they're 18. That's just shocking.
So it's 1 in 6 boys, 1 in 3 women. When you consider the thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of guys that will never, ever, ever, ever come forward because of shame, because of toxic masculinity, because of race, religion, whatever the situation is.
To say as a man, I've been raped, it is hard. It's a hard thing. There's just an element of shame in it. I'm a man, I should be strong, you know? Makes you feel so vulnerable. And then when I thought about doing the interview, some people, their first reaction was, oh, you're not going to show your face. And then I sort of said to me, oh, well, that's the point.
The definition of stigma is a negative social attitude attached to a person or group, often resulting in shame or discrimination. Many survivors of sexual assault often face stigma because society has rigid ideas about masculinity. Many people believe men are strong and can't be victims, which makes it harder for male survivors to speak out. Reporting. The definition of underreporting is when incidents are not reported as often as they actually occur. Many men do not report sexual assault because they fear not being believed or being laughed at. Society often assumes men are physically strong and are able to defend themselves, which creates a false idea that sexual assault against men is unlikely or unserious. Some male survivors worry that reporting will damage their reputation, masculinity, or social standing. Hello, this is Stephanie Sertil, and what is your name?
I'm Mushira Gill.
Okay, now I have a question for you. My question is, how do you think societal expectations about masculinity influence the way people view male survivors of sexual assault?
Wow, that's a deep question. I feel that we have a lot of, in society, we have a lot of limiting and rigid rules about how we expect men to behave and act and think. And I think that creates an environment where a lot of people maybe don't believe men when they are survivors of sexual assault because we associate men with being hypersexual. A lot of times I think we expect, oh, you must have liked it, you must have enjoyed it. And sometimes people don't even think that men can be survivors of sexual assault because it seems like people tend to think that men are always available for sex, and that's not true. So I think that it creates a very hostile environment for men who have experienced it.
For many male survivors, sexual assault isn't something that first happened in adulthood. It often begins much earlier in life. during periods when individuals are most vulnerable and least able to protect themselves or understand what is happening. These early experiences are frequently met with silence, fear, and confusion, allowing harm to go unnoticed and undressed for years. This brings us to the issue of child sexual abuse and pedophilia.
Sexual assault on children, or another way to explain it, pedophilia. You see, yes, in this video we're going to be talking about the sexual assault between children, but also sexual assault between adults and children. Did you know that 1 to 5% of adults tend to experience thoughts and ideas about pedophilia, but it tends to be fewer or less that actually act on it? See, people like to talk about the action and the doing of sexual assault against children, but can we focus on the psychological part of it? And what I mean by psychological part is the ideas and the thoughts that get into their head, which cause them to get these thoughts and attack and sexually assault these children. For example, rape. Here's a video.
But based on my own personal experience working with pedophiles, this is what I think. Many individuals have what we call a stunted emotional growth. So something happened in their life where they stopped emotionally maturing. They may be 40 years old, but in their mind, their emotions, they're 9 years old. So what happens if you have an individual in a grown male body with grown male sexual urges who has an emotional connection to a child? If we can't teach them to connect with adults emotionally, then we have to guide them by consequences like...
So, now that you kind of have a grasp, or you can see that in a way how the adult can also be a victim, but not in a way of like how he's being sexually assaulted, but in a way that he's a victim of a prison in his own mind. He's a prisoner of himself. It's not like he does these things just because out of the evil out of his heart, but he does it because he can't think any better or know any better. And I feel like that's such a strong way to explain it, because what you have to understand is that if you can't help yourself, or your brain doesn't know any better, and no one has ever helped you to know any better, what can you do? And that's why, in their mind, and some of those pedophiles' ideology, they are a prison of their own mind. But let's not focus too much on the psychological part from their point of view. Let's also take a look at the laws that are supposed to help children. And when I say this, is that in certain states, there was laws passed that no matter who you are, if someone ever reports sexual abuse or any type of abuse, you're required to tell the authorities, including priests, including any confession that someone may have. If there's a crime, you're required to report it. But Catholic groups, after hearing laws like that, they have fought back, and in certain states it has gotten overturned. So now they are not required to report confessions of sexual assault. They are not required to report a pedophile, which has got a lot of lash on media. Take a look.
You guys are going to be enraged by this. In Washington state, they just passed a law that actually protects child predators. And I'm dead serious about this, and let me tell you how. Earlier this year, lawmakers introduced a bill that would have finally, because it wasn't already, made members of the clergy mandatory reporters, just like teachers, doctors, and therapists, which means that if they ever suspected or learned about child abuse, that they would be required by law to report it. And you'd think that that should have been common sense, but it wasn't. This bill actually passed, and it was supposed to protect kids and hold the church accountable. But then the pushback came from religious groups claiming that confession should stay sacred. And instead of standing on their ground, the state actually backed down to them. Now priests and religious leaders don't have to report abuse if they hear about it in confession.
Now, after looking at that video, that made you think, what is our government doing? How is our government protecting us? But another thing to notice is that only 1 of 3 people actually report sexual assault to the police, at least the victims. And in child sexual assault cases, only 30% of it actually gets reported to the police. So now, with these laws, now it's going to be harder to get those confessions. Now it's going to be hard to get those pedophiles out of there. So, if our government is not protecting us, then who are they protecting? But now, I think that you guys now understand the psychological aspect. You guys now understand what our laws are doing and how they're quote unquote supposed to be protecting us. But the adult does not have to be the person that assaults the child. Sexual assault in children doesn't have to just resort to pedophilia. It can also be from child to child sexual assault, which is also heavily common. Someone around 16-year-old assaulting another 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 17-year-old. So I have some interviews from some teachers so they can show you from their aspect. The first interview I'm going to show you is with Ms. Martinez. She is a counselor at Hillside High School. She'll be answering one of our questions.
Hi, I'm Joel. I'm here with Ms. Martinez, and she's here to answer some questions about sexual assault. So, Ms. Martinez, what should a student do if they experience sexual assault?
Anytime a student experiences sexual assault, the first thing they should do is definitely tell an adult or go to someone in the building that can help them. If you see something, say something immediately. Sexual assault is usually something that is not, when a student does not give consent and something happens that makes them feel uncomfortable. And anytime that happens, immediately speak to an adult so that we can try to help you.
Thank you.
See, Ms. Martina kind of gave us quite an understanding of the protocols and the idea of sexual assault in high school. And there will be other views that will also explain other questions, but let's focus and take a deep dive into what she said. See, did you understand that 11% of teachers are accused of sexual comments? Around 0.9% accused of being touched, and 0.4% are actually taken for serious, like very serious reasons for sexual assault. You see, sexual assault in children can cross over into so many different things. It can happen in your home. It can happen at your school. It can happen at a friend's house. It can happen when you're at a aunt's, uncle's, grandma's, etc. Anybody can be the assaulter. Anyone. And in most cases, it actually happens to be someone that you trust or know that can sexually assault you. But now, to section ourselves away, let's listen to the vice principal of Hillside High School, because she will be explaining the protocol between teacher and student sexual assault.
Hi, my name is Joel Binns. I'm here with Ms. Hartwell, the vice principal of Hillside High School. I wanted to know what happens if a teacher is reported of sexual assault by another student.
That's an extremely serious offense. It is a mandatory report to the police, of course a report to the parents, and a report to the Division of Child Protective Services. It has to be handled immediately. we are mandatory reporters. Teachers, counselors, anybody working in the school, even a security guard, anyone who gets a report of that nature has to report it at once.
Thank you.
See, as you see, that's not another point of view of the topic of student through teacher sexual assault, which is never brought with a lot of awareness. If you look at other movies, TV shows, specifically movies, there's movies that make fun of or joke around about sexual assault between student and teachers. And some students, they see it as a joyful thing or a win when a teacher is having sexual ideas and doing sexual things with a student. But when a student would also mean a child, a minor, which is also pedophilia. But now let's take another look from a teacher's now perspective. See, we've gotten a counselor perspective, a vice principal's perspective, but what it really matters, and you'll see a very stronger point, is from a teacher, Miss Monica, who is a world history teacher. Now, she'll be giving us a more of idea and an example of what it's like for her. Let's take a look.
Hi, my name is Joel Benz. I'm here with Miss Monica to answer questions about sexual assault. So, Miss Monica, what is protocol when a student reports sexual assault?
I have to report it to the administration, so whether that be the principal or if he's not available, one of the VPs, and then I would notify the nurse.
Thank you.
Did you know that 80%, 85% to 90% of sexual assault cases between teacher and student actually tend to be male? But what's even more concerning and more thought-twisting, did you know that when it comes to teacher and student sexual assault cases, the actual age is usually around 13 to 15? Now that makes you think. It's not like we're dealing with older, where there might be almost adults, 17, 18, in that age gap. Or maybe in college, because it's still sexual assault. But the age tends to be when they're a child, freshly teenagers, 13 through 15. And that is sick. But that also raises a question. Has our school or our school system or our communities or our town, our mayors, have they failed us because they can't protect where it matters the most, our children? And students are deeply affected. Parents, deeply affected. Families, deeply affected. Communities, deeply affected. But as we've seen through teachers explain, let's ask a student what they think if they feel like their high school protects them from sexual assault.
Hi, my name is Joel Benz. I'm here with Adeline Fernandez, and we're here to talk about sexual assault. Do you think that the school will protect students against sexual assault?
I don't think school will protect students on sexual assault because I feel like it's a topic not talked about enough in school. It is a very sensitive topic because schools like to look over it, so I feel like there's no education and it's not talked about, so they're not protecting us at all.
Thank you.
What are we doing as a people? How are you helping? When you see this video, you're gonna have the idea, sexual assault is bad. But how are you helping? What are you doing? I can tell you, I can give you awareness. But how are you gonna help another kid like me? How are you gonna help a child that you might know? What can we do as a people to overcome sexual assault? Well, I'm going to tell you. Trying to understand the assaulter, trying to help out the assaulted, and overall, trying to help our community. Thank you for watching.